All right. Well, I've been sitting down here nursing this drink all day. Might as well do some work. It's always this weird thing for me when I'm trying to figure out how to react or respond to criticism. But for the most part, I do take it to heart. There have been some negative reviews on iTunes that have changed the way that I do the show for better, I feel. And I think most people who spend their time weighing in on the show, sincerely, thanks. Most of you. However, if you do not understand the show and you are going to take time out of your busy day to write a 1-star review on me and write, I really like the topics, but I really, really wish that he would edit out the drinking noises. It is so unprofessional. Please allow me to retort. If you don't like my laid-back attitude or my drinking noises, or you can't stand me reading all of this bullshit out loud and breathing through my once too often broken fucking nose, be a man and just go find fucking something else to listen to. This show is not a slick presentation. It is a gathering of friends outside smoking at a party, talking about weird shit because the people inside the party are like you. Probably some kind of cardigan wearing SJW fucking weirdo. It's like a bunch of friends up too late after too many drinks and too many bowls talking about the mysteries of the universe. This show is not about calm, even boring voices and overproduced bullshit. This is the fucking Abracast, dude. And I am proud to announce that it's getting a little bit bigger. That's right. Starting March 3rd, we are launching a limited series called the American Sermon. It's the occult foundation of the United States, where we are going to be looking at some of this weird, offbeat, and sinister bullshit tied to the creation of the United States. I am so excited for this. I've been working on it for like a month and a half so far. Officially starting March 3rd, there's probably going to be a cool early episode just so I can get the RSS feed and stuff lined up and straightened out, so you can keep your eye out for it on the abracast.com. As always, Spreaker, it'll be on Spreaker, and then we will officially roll it out as fast as we can after that. But yeah, keep your eye out for it.
In this episode, Metaphysics of Sex Magic, Weaponized, Pyramis, Lilith, Qliphotic entities, Incubus, and Succubus. Let's talk about sex, baby. In this episode, we talk about directing the creative force, not like lightning grounded by a lightning rod, but as a magician with a wand, manifesting and changing reality with will and intent. We also talk about the unpleasant side of undirected phallic power.
In the dark shadows and in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast, we are the brave and bold. There exists a talisman of universal application. In the element kingdom, it is represented by Pyramis, fire, in geometric terms by the pyramid or triangle, and in biological terms, the phallus. As the sun radiates life and light throughout the solar system, so the phallus radiates life and light upon Earth, and similarly subverses a power greater than itself. For as the sun is a reflection of Sirius, so is the phallus the vehicle of the will of the magus. This is from the Magical Revival from Kenneth Grant. We're going to talk about it more.
The Abracast. occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
All right. Hey, I'm John Towers. This is the Abercast. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be your pyramid builder. I'll be your pyramid builder for the evening. This is going to be a jam-packed couple of episodes here. So the majority of this book, the majority of these, I'm hoping I could get it done in 2 episodes, but literally I have no idea. Okay, so the majority of this stuff is going to be coming from chapter 2 of The Magical Revival by Kenneth Grant. And the chapter of his book here is called The Metaphysical Base. The metaphysics. Oh, I gotta get my shit together. The metaphysical basis of sexual magic. But it depends on how long this goes. We're actually going to be zipping over to Ginsberg Legends of the Jews, as well as a scholarly paper later, and then we're going to be getting into mythology and stuff Greek mythology and stuff towards the end. So, unless I'm noting otherwise, this is all coming from The Magical Revival by Kenneth Grant, specifically chapter 2. And I'll try to call out, if and when I switch. It'll be totally evident because you'll be able to tell. Okay, so, also the Encyclopedia of Occultism by Louis Spence. We're going to jump into that, and I'll let you'll definitely know when we flip to that, okay? So we're just going to get into this. All right, so this chapter starts out weird. So this is part of our sex magic stuff. So this is going to be basically a continuation of the phallic idea of Religions of Antiquity episodes that we did, and then the sexual alchemy episodes that we did. So, but on top of that, it's also going to connect a bunch of other stuff that we've talked about, especially recently. So I'll try to call them out as we're going through all this. Maybe I should have started this earlier. All right, so in the cold open, we're talking about this phallic power. You're talking about this generative cock power. And to the uninitiated, this phallic power is in charge. I said the uninitiated, right? To the uninitiated, this power is it's in charge. Have you ever made an awful decision and somewhere through your hangover the next day in the back of your mind you're like, well, shit, I was thinking with the wrong head, or there's a bunch of different euphemisms for it. I was letting the little guy drive. You know what I'm talking about. This phallic power does whatever it wants, and regardless of what the owner wants, no matter how self-destructive these decisions or this might be. So the OTO, or these practitioners of sex magic, seek to control this phallic power. It's kind of like they're weaponizing it. They want to use this principle from the cold open, this elemental fire. They want to construct this pyramid. They want to wield this magic wand. Okay, so to weaponize your phallic power, weaponizing your dick or your cock power or whatever you call it, we are talking about harnessing this creative energy, controlling this elemental fire. Is all about the inhibition of the usual physical results of sex. Your sexual energy isn't grounded. It's not like a lightning rod, or it's not like lightning to a lightning rod. Like you don't just sink it. You know what I mean? But what you do is you use all this sexual energy and you're directing it using your will to manifest, whatever, something. You're using it to manifest something. It is important. All right, so it's important, and I notice I'm saying this over and over again in these episodes, but this is not like the wank method of chaos magic or sigil magic, that's popular with all the kids these days. I'm not dissing all of that stuff. I just don't want someone who knows, about that stuff to listen to me starting to talk about this and to be turned off, because it's like, well, that's not, drawing pictures. That's not drawing little pictograms and jerking off to it and all that stuff. So I'm not dissing that stuff at all. Go ahead, draw your sigils and pray whenever you're jerking off or whatever. I just feel like I need to differentiate the topics. I feel like these get conflated, right? I feel like they get conflated because they're both, sigil magic isn't really about sex. But that's a technique in there, right? So this is about sex. So let's talk for, okay, so we're going to get into it. We're going to get into this thing. Hold on. I'm all disorganized. So, if you are playing along at home, this would be a great, time for you to grab your jar or your glass, whatever, and go ahead and charge it. You know what to do. Adhere to the formula. The formula for the weapon of mass distraction. The Jinn Jihad. All right, so we're going to get into this Kenneth Grant book. Okay. Liber Agape, the Enchidron of the sovereign sanctuary of the Gnosis of the OTO. That's the Ordo Templi Orientis. Shows how sexual magic is based on the assumption that no cause can be balked of an effect. If the natural effect is annulled, the discharge of energy is not lost. It forms a subtle or astral image of the idea dominant in the mind at the climax of coitus. Ordinarily, this idea is one of lust, and because of the tendency or habit, it is set up in the mind, which consequently becomes increasingly difficult to control. The tendency must therefore be destroyed. The mental exaltation generated by a magically controlled orgasm forms a lucent lens-like window past which stream of vivid astral imagery in the subconscious mind. Specific images are invoked and fixed, and they become instantly and vitally alive. We're going to talk a little bit about this later. As their luminous presence is obsessive, the magical safeguards are essential to offset actual obsession. The images are dynamic links with deeper centers of consciousness and act as keys to the experience or revelations which form the object of operation. To incarnate such experience is the object of sexual magic. It is necessary, therefore, to formulate the will with great care. Do without wilt is the whole of the law. And the Master Therion says, there, doing your will doesn't mean doing whatever you want. You must create with great care this intention with your will. That was me. I just injected that. That is not part of this book. However, he talks about Crowley and Thelema at length, which we're going to get into, which there must be nothing in the mind at the moment of orgasm except the image of the, quote, child, unquote, which it is intended to bring to birth. Objections against masturbation, onanism, coitus interruptus, and charisma, and other apparently sterile methods of using sexual energy follow logically upon awareness of the sacramental nature of this generative act. So he says, he says masturbation, onanism, coitus interruptus, and charisma. Now, onanism is jerking off. He says it's basically, he's saying masturbation, coitus interruptus, and charisma. It's just a fancy way of saying jerking off. Coitus interruptus is just pulling out. And charisma is this weird, I never even heard of this before. I had to look it up. It's this weird, like, beta sex. It's just like this, like, soft core kind of slipping it in and out. But the point isn't to have an orgasm. It's not tantra. You have to understand, like, it's not tantric. It's sort of like edging, I guess, but you never get there. I don't understand. It's like this beta softcore thing. They say affection is the key, not orgasm. And I'm like, what fucking planet? What fucking Hallmark movie is this in? Erroneous conclusions drawn from the incomplete apprehension of the factors involved led in the past to, quote, fire and brimstone, unquote, admonitions directed against abuses. At one time were thought to lead to degeneration of the nervous system, blindness, paralysis, and insanity. In actual fact, none of this energy is lost, although it fails to find a field of operation in the matrix which nature has provided for it. It breeds, instead of a physical offspring, phantoms composed of a tenuous matter through the deliberate and persistent practice of such abuses. Now, he throws this word in here that we're going to have to talk about for a minute. Qliphotic. He's saying through the deliberate and persistent practices of such abuses as masturbation, as coitus interruptus, as this weird beta sex thing, you're not using the sexual energy is an abuse. And that deliberate and persistent practice engenders these Qliphotic entities. Now, Qliphoth is a Kabbalistic word. It's like a peel, like an empty peel, or like a husk. It's like a shell of something. We're going to talk a lot about this as we're going forward. It's cool that he mentions it so early in as a way to kind of tie it. All right, so these Qliphotic entities are engendered, and they prey upon the mind and feed upon the nervous fluid. And he says, Crowley notes, quote, ancient Jewish rabbins knew this and taught that before Eve was given to Adam, the demon Lilith was conceived. by the spliff of his dreams, so that the hybrid races of satyrs, satyrs, elves, and the like began to populate in those secret places of the earth which are not sensible by the organs of normal man. So I wanted to take a minute because, I feel that you guys are savvy to this kind of stuff by now. We've mentioned Lilith before, like I feel like when we were doing the Gnostic episodes, maybe we talked a little bit about Lilith. So I thought that I would go back and find the passages in Ginsberg's Legends of the Jews where he's talking about this. So we're going to take a moment to talk about this demon Lilith thing. And we're going to go, and we're going to bounce to Ginsberg's Legend of the Jews, Volume 1, there, so we can explore what Crowley is talking about here. So, it's at the beginning, but it's not at the very beginning. So, it's after man and the world. It's after angels and the creation of man, the soul of man, the ideal of man, the fall of Satan. Here it is. It's woman. So here we go. This is a Legend of the Jews, Ginsberg. Woman. When Adam opened his eyes for the first time, he beheld the world around him. And he broke into the praise of God. And how great are thy works, O Lord. But his admiration for the world and surrounding him did not exceed the admiration of all creatures conceived for Adam. They took him to be their creator, and they all came to offer him adoration. But he spoke, "Why do you come to worship me? Nay, you and I together will acknowledge the majesty and the might of him who hath created us. The Lord reigneth." He continued, "He is apparelled with majesty. Not alone the creatures on earth, even the heavens, thought Adam, and the Lord of all. They are about to salute him with the I have this, my point of view is that the God of the Old Testament is this crazy narcissist. He's like a Mr. Magoo kind of, but like a narcissist. Like he just jacks everything up. Like he fucks everything up. He doesn't get anything right. And he actually has this host of angels that just fly around him all the time, singing, "Holy, holy, holy." And so Adam here is like, not, and not alone the creatures on earth, even the angels thought Adam of the Lord of all. They were about to salute him with, quote, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts," unquote. And when God caused sleep to fall upon him, and then the angels knew that he was but a human being. The purpose of the sleep that enfolded Adam was to give him a wife, so that human race might develop and that all creatures recognize the difference between God and man. When the earth heard what God had resolved to do, it began to tremble and quake. "I have not the strength," it said, "to provide food for the herd of Adam's descendants." But God pacified it with these words, quote, I and thou together will find food for the herd, unquote. Accordingly, time was divided between God and the earth, and God took the night, and the earth took the day. Refreshing sleep nourishes and strengthens man, and it affords him life and rest, while the earth brings forth produce to help of God who waters it. Yet man must work the earth to earn his food. So that's an interesting passage because those ancient Hebrews went on lunar calendar rather than a solar calendar. And here you see that God chooses to work, to do his half at night. I thought that was interesting. The divine resolution to bestow a companion on Adam met the wishes of man, who had been overcome by a feeling of isolation. When the animals came to him in pairs to be named, to banish his loneliness, Lilith was first given to Adam as wife. Like him, she had been created of the dust of the ground, but she remained with him only a short time because she insisted, here we go, she insisted upon enjoying full equality with her husband. She derived her rights from their identical origin. With the help of the ineffable name, which she pronounced Lilith, flew away from Adam, and she vanished in the air. Adam complained before God that the wife he had given him had deserted him, and God sent forth 3 angels to capture her. So this is it, right? Okay, so you got to read between the lines a little bit. She wanted to be on top is the way a lot of scholars look at this, like when they talk about it. And this is the reason that we had Lilith Fair in the 90s, like all the Sarah McLachlan fucking clit chicks fucking thing. Back to this thing. I'm losing time already. Fuck, man. They found her in the Red Sea, and they sought to make her go back. With a threat that unless she went, she would lose 100 of her demon children daily by death. But Lilith preferred this punishment to living with Adam. She takes her revenge by injuring baby boys during their first night of life, while the baby girls are exposed to her wicked designs until they are 20 days old. The only way to ward off the evil is to attach an amulet bearing the name of these 3 angel captors to the children, for such had been the agreement between them. So there's an interesting point. I mentioned this. I know that I mentioned this in the Gnostic episodes and the Garden of Eden episodes, specifically the Garden of Eden episodes, about the separation of the male and female principles, which is why those Simon Magus episodes are so important, because they're the reunification of those male and female principles. That Adam was this weird creature that had 4 eyes, 2 mouths, 2 noses. He was like this weird, like hermaphrodite that had 4 arms and 4 legs. So this is where this idea comes from, or this is a aspect of this idea. The woman destined to become the true companion of man was taken from Adam's body. For, quote, only when he is joined unto, like the union is indissoluble, unquote. The creation of woman from man was possible because Adam originally had 2 faces which were separated at the birth of Eve. So fucking weird, man. It's all fucking weird. Don't you think? It's fucking weird. But that's the crux of these. In a way, that's the crux of these sexual magic episodes or sexual alchemy episodes. You know, we spend our time, especially in our 20s and 30s, we spend our time trying to find that other, that what completes you, your female side or whatever. All right. We're going to get weird here pretty soon. we're going to take a break here, and then we're going to get fucking weird. Are you ready? This is what we're going to do. Hey guys, every mainstream show this month has an extension on Patreon for the $5 tier. The week 1 extension episode is The House of Air Wands. It's an extension of the continuation of the tarot card series. Week 2 extension is the Battle the Battle of Tours, which I've been threatening to do for quite a while. It's an awesome show. The extension for week 3 is Metaphysics of Sex Magic, the Kundalini Homunculus, and the Curse of Pasiphae. And the extension for week 4 is the Patriot Conspiracy. The Patriot Conspiracy. And just like always, the $3 tier has all of this month's mainstream shows available for commercial free right now. The whole month of January is available right now. Thank you guys for the support and for listening. Thank you. Oh, a portion of all Patreon support donations and ad revenue goes to helping us send books to deployed servicemen and women overseas. We call it Tomes for Troopers. This month we were able to send out this female was looking to get a whole collection of the Songs of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones book. So we were able to provide them with Dance of Dragons. I was pretty excited about that. And a shout out to Marie and Heather and also my old man for donations this month. Thank you very much. Thanks for the support. Back to this book. Many long and tedious dissertations on the possibility of a witch giving birth to offspring after a union with the devil in the form of an incubus should be understood in the sense that children are born of such unions, though not physical children. Any discharge of energy of any kind has an effect on all planes. If results of one plane are balked as what would happen in the case of an incubus, then they would appear on another. According to ancient authorities on witchcraft, incubi and succubi are personifications of the devil himself. Could it be Satan? The devil is synonymous with the creative spirit in man. Crowley goes so far as to declare that if the satyr is the true nature, of every man and every woman. We're going to get back to this idea at the very end. Whatever episode the end of this is going to be, it links directly to this sentence. That's important. That's a fucking mind bender. The incubus or succubus is the exterioration or the extrusion of the satyr in each individual, and it represents the subliminal will and affect the dwarf self or holy guardian angel. It is the principle in man that is immortal, and it is inextricably bound up with sexuality, which in turn is the key to its nature and the means of its incarnation. Its incarnation. So, I'm just going to take a second here. I'm going to take a second here to talk about incubi and succubi. We're going to be referring to the Encyclopedia of Occultism, a compendium of information on the occult sciences, occult personalities, psychic science, magic, demonology, spiritism, mysticism, and metaphysics by Louis Spence. Now, the reason that the actual reason why I'm bringing this up, I think that most people today know what an incubus and a succubus is. We've all seen the entity. We've all heard the. Okay, we've all seen the entity. We get it. But the problem with this is that it's like a hot YouTube right now. There's a hotbed of incubus and succubus videos on YouTube right now. And it's kids talking about how to evoke incubuses or succubuses so you can have sex with them. So they're kids that are trying to get laid, but they can't get laid. So they're like, okay, I'm going to summon a demon to fuck, or allegedly. That's my opinion of them anyway. I mean, who knows? They might be summoning demons, whatever. But I thought that I would step back and take a scholarly look at this real quick. Just to put in perspective. So, this encyclopedia is very at face value. And while I'm reading this thing, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm reading this entry on Incubus, and I'm going to read the entry on Succubus. I want you to think about what Crowley just said that I read, and kind of think about, is he talking about actual demons that come up from hell to fuck you? Or is he talking about this psychological, the shadow self that we talk about from time to time on the podcast? So here we go. We're getting into this encyclopedia book, and this is the Incubus. A spirit, incubus. A spirit which has intercourse with mortal women. The concept may have arisen from the idea that the commerce of gods with women, which we're actually going to talk about this at the very end too. Kenneth Grant is brilliant. God damn it, it's fucking brilliant. Okay. Maybe not the end of this episode, what I'm saying. The end of whatever this series of episodes, even 2 or 3 episodes from now about this sex magic. I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm sorry. Rife. Okay, so the commerce of gods with women rife in pagan times. For modern and medieval instances, we could do a little more than refer to the pages in which they may be found. And the very names of the writers will sufficiently avouch their credibility. This history of Hector Boethius has 3 or 4 notable examples which obtain confirmation from the pen of Cardan. One of these we may venture to transcribe in the quaint dress which Holinshed, I almost read that as Hollandaise, like Hollandaise sauce, had given it. In the year 1480, it chanced as a Scottish ship departed out of the Forth towards Flanders, there arose a wonderful great tempest for the wind and the weather, so outrageous that the master of the matter meant to see such weather at the time of this year. This is all like they have like extra E's and stuff all over the place. So I'm sorry if I'm fucking it up. Fuck. Now where was I? For it was about the middest of summer. At length, when the furious peer and rage of wind still increased in such wise that all those within the ship looked for present death, there was a woman underneath the hatches called unto them above, and willed them to throw her into the sea. Jonah, hello. Remember how I said that this is going to link into a lot of stuff? Like, this is the story of Jonah. From the sign of Jonah way back in the day. That all residue by God's grace might yet be saved, and thereupon told them how she had been haunted a long time with the spirit of Deli coming unto her here, H-I-R, in man's likeness. The ship there chanced also to be a priest, who by the maester's appointment going down to this woman and finding her like a most wretched and desperate person, lamenting her great misfortune and miserable estate, used such wholesome admonition at the comfortable advertisements, willing her to repent and hope for the mercy of the hands of God. At the length she seemingly, thank you, Pastor Larry, seemingly right and penitent for her grievous offenses committed, and fetching sundry sighs even from the bottom of her heart, she witnessed as she appears of the same there issued forth of the pump of the ship a foul and evil-flavored black cloud with a mighty and terrible noise, flame, smoke, and stink, which presently fell into the sea, and the suddenly thereupon the tempest ceased, and the ship passing in the great quiet, the residue of her journey, arrived at the safety of the place whither she was bound. In another case related by the same author, the incubus did not depart so quietly. In the chamber of a young gentlewoman of excellent beauty, the daughter of a nobleman in the country of Mar, was found at the unseasonable hour. A foul, monstrous thing. It was like wet with tentacles. Was found at an unseasonable hour, the foul and monstrous thing, very horrible to behold, for the love of which deformed, nevertheless, the lady had refused sundry wealthy marriages. A priest who was in the company began to repeat St. John's Gospel, and ere he had proceeded far, quote, suddenly the wicked spirit making had proceeded far. Oh, wait, fuck. I backed it up. Suddenly, the wicked spirit, making a very sort of terrible roaring noise, flew his wares, and taking the roof of the chamber away with him, the hangings and coverings of the bed being also burnt therewith. Erastius, in his tract De Lamis Sprengerus, who assures us that himself for the 4 colleagues punished many old women of Ratisbon with death for the commerce. Zucchinis. Passim, among others, will sedate the neist curiosity on these points. From Bodinus, we learn that Joan Havoria, at 12 years of age, was solemnly betrothed to Beelzebub by her mother, who was afterwards burnt alive for compassing this clandestine marriage. The bridegroom was very respectably attired, and the marriage formulary was simple. The mother pronounced the following words to the bridegroom. Oh my God, what is this? Okay, here we go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to commit. Isi filum meum quam spondia. So spondia tiba. Unquote. All right. Isi filium meum quam suspondia tibia. Tibi. And the turning of the bride. Here we go again. Isi amicum tium qui bibet ti. Unquote. Sorry for that. It appears, however, that Joan was not satisfied with her spiritual husband alone, but became a bigamist by intermarrying with the real flesh and blood. Besides this lady, we read of Margaret Briomone, who, in company with her mother, Joan Guillaume, Mary, wife of Simon Angus, and Wilhelmina, spouse of Gracius, I'm lost. Where in the habit of attending diabolic assignations, these unhappy wretches were burnt alive by Adrian Ferris, the general vicar of the Inquisition, Magdalena Carocius Cordova. Annabis was more fortunate. In 1545, she became suspect by her nuns of magic, an accusation very convenient when the superior was at all troublesome. So they're saying whenever these nuns had a problem, they'd just be like, yo, that bitch is a witch. She encountered them with great wisdom by anticipating their charge, and by going beforehand to Pope Paul III, she confessed a 30 years intimate acquaintance with the devil and obtained his pardon. So much for not reading the whole thing. Okay, here we go. Succubus. Succubus, a demon who takes the shape of a woman. I've known a few of these. The Rabbi Elias says that it was mentioned in certain writings that Adam was visited during 130 years by female demons and had intercourse with the demons. Yeah, I'm familiar with this too. Spirits, specters, lemurs. That's weird. He says lemurs and phantoms. Under the reign of Roger, king of Sicily, a young man bathing by moonlight with several others thought he saw someone drowning and hastened to the rescue. Having drawn from the water a beautiful woman, he became enamored with her, and he married her, and he had her a child. Afterwards, she disappeared mysteriously with her child, which made everyone believe that she was a succubus. Satan? Hector Boece, in his History of Scotland, relates that a very handsome young man was pursued by a female demon who had passed through his closed door and offered to marry him. He complained to his bishop, who enjoined him to fast, pray, and confess himself. When the infernal visitors ceased to trouble him, Delant says that in Egypt an honest mercurial ferrant, being occupied in the forging during the night, there appeared him a demon under the shape of a beautiful woman, and he threw a hot iron in the face of the demon, which at once took flight. So, there's that. But if you want to know how to summon one of these things, you can fuck it. Just Google search it on, just YouTube search it. They're out there. The millennials are out there. They'll tell you how to do it. All right, back to this book. We're not done. This is going to be a long fucking episodes, bro. In ancient Egypt, tomb and womb were interchangeable terms, according to Kenneth Grant. The tomb brought to birth into the material world. The womb brought to birth in the material world, the tomb into the spiritual world. So this reminds me of like what we're talking about in the tarot card episodes this month, where you have that it's like you have the four cards, the Yod, Hey, Vo, Hey, and that the Yod, Hey, Vo, and then that second Hey is a transition to the next series of cards. That's interesting. See, we're drawing all these connections. The ideas of resurrection and re-erection. Yeah. that pretty much sums up, priapism. That's pretty much middle school until senior year. Were also interchangeable. The phallus, erect or rising, symbolized the resurrection of the new life in the spiritual world. It also signified the ability to live and to cause to live again. It was said to die in the act of transmitting the vital principle to its word, its truth. An Egyptian creation legend recorded on the papyrus of Nasai Emsu, the god Atum, is described as having thrust his member into his hand and performed his desire, thus producing the two children Shu and Tufnut. The children represented the mystical principles of fire and water, heat and moisture, necessary for maternalizing the phantom, the matrix, the humid, moist womb, or the succubus. Although which the energy is transmitted to the subtle planes, the god Khepra also. Oh, Khepra. I knew a chick in art school. So this is Khafra. I believe it's the male side of Khepra, and I knew a chick in art school named Khepra, and oh boy, she was like a stripper on the like she's stripping to get her way through art school. You know what I'm saying? It's like a hot fucking goth chick that liked to eat at the Oyster House. God damn. Thanks for the memories and the memories. Also, in recording the same papyrus as having had union with his hand and of embracing his shadow in a love embrace, the shadow of the succubus, the rabbinical lore. Its name is Lilith and was the first wife of Adam and was created out of the substance of his imagination. In a Golden Dawn manuscript entitled The Mekareka, she is described as a woman outwardly beautiful but inwardly corrupt and putrefying. Well, I'm not saying that the Khepra of my past was corrupt and putrefying. She was definitely something else. Even Lilith are not two different creatures, but two aspects of a single entity. The bright, solar, creative, angelic aspect was called Eve, a form of the creative deity, Iva, or Jehovah, or the Tetragrammaton, as we know it, Yod-He-Vo-He. The lunar, corrupting, demonic aspect was named Lilith. You know, we talk about this shadow person. It's not a topic, but like I bring it up every now and again. Right? Do you know? Would you like to know more? She strangled souls in her embrace, or with the cincture of a single hair. She was called the Serpent Woman because of her connection with the lunar current of, I don't know what this word is, periodicity? Periodicity. I don't know. I think it means menstruation, like a woman's menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle, symbolized by her capacity for slaying children. As soon as conceived, she later became the goddess of witchcraft, the magic of night, i.e., the dark black, the left hand, as opposed to the magic of day, the solar or white magic, or the magic of the right hand. These twin... Hey, oh my God. This kitten just used the fucking litter box, and it is rough. The twin aspects of the holy guardian angel, the good and evil. evil demons appear alluring and terrible by turn. Skipping ahead, they are vague and shadowy companions responding to the most tedious evocations of the nervous system. In a spiritual sense, they may be considered as guiding the soul along the luminous and dark byways of Amente. Now, you guys might remember Amente. That might send up a red flag for you, because we did a bunch of episodes on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and he speaks a lot about the halls of Amente. Those are Patreon exclusive episodes, so you might not have gotten them. The evocation of the Dark Companion for personal ends is referred to by J. Marquis Rivera. Quote, I was able to know personally the absolutely depraved and abnormal sexual appetite of these false yogis. The method used is called peri-yoga, although which it is supposed possible to visualize and animate certain female entities who are called succubuses. So peri-yoga came up in our talk about, it's like 5 episodes about Crowley's Liber Abba, the first chapter of Crowley's Liber Abba, or Magick. It's the chapter on mysticism. He talks a lot about yoga and in the different things you could do with it. So we talk about that there, which is also a Patreon exclusive episode. Arthur Avalon also refers to an analogous process of sexual black magic in the serpent power. Those who do practice magic of this kind mentioned work only in the lowest center, have recourse of peri-yoga, which leads to Nayaka Siddha, whereby commerce is had with the female spirit and the like. Crowley gives a method of generating such companions which involves the use of Dee and Kelly's Enochian system. Such elementals or familiar spirits are, he says, to be treated with kindness and firmness. This is exactly like the Lesser Key of Solomon, where you treat them okay, but you let them know who's boss once you get them there. The best type of spirit, the spirits of the elemental tables, which Dee and Kelly derived for the conjuration of magical servitors. And these servitors are perfect in their nature and faithful in affectioning the human race. And if not so powerful as they are dangerous as the planetary spirits, Crowley conjoins them by the keys or calls of Enoch. After the calls, he performs an act of sexual magic after the manner of the papyrus of Nisi Emsu, letting the semen fall upon and be preserved within the pyramids of letters compromising the names of the spirits he was conjuring, which sounds an awful lot like these chaos magicians and their jerk-off magic. Whoa, sorry. Most of Crowley's magic was performed on the astral plane, which usually involved some form of sexual congress. The one really easy physical operation which the body of light can perform is congressius subtilis, the emanation of the body of desire of the material being whom one visits, are, if the visit be agreeable, so potent that spontaneously gains substance in the embrace. There are many cases on record of children having been born as a result of these union. These, quote, children, unquote, were elementals or companions. If the former, they acted as servitors, like the witches' familiars. If the latter, the links through which they were able to communicate with desians of the astral realms, consistent with the nature of the succubus. Thus, Crowley gained direct access to the regions hidden from occultists using old ceremonial techniques of evocation. It also enabled him, in many cases, to dispense with a medium between himself and the entities contacted. For by sexual union with a non-terrestrial entity, he was able to enter the stream of non-human contact in which Dion Fortune often makes mention. Now, I've got to stop here to talk about, he mentioned Dion Fortune, and we used Dion Fortune's book, Mystical Kabbalah, a lot for our Patreon episodes on the supernal, ethical, and psychological triangles. There's 3 hour-long episodes just sitting on there, partially based on Dion Fortune book. The body of light is so called because it was anciently known that man resurrected, not in his physical body, as believed by the Christians, but in more tenuous and etherical vehicle which rose from the dark of death. The abyss, like the stars which rose resplendent from below the horizon. The astral body or ghost was the most ancient type of resurrection because according to the Egyptian doctrine, when the mummy transformed into the underworld of Amente, like Thoth, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, when it was spiritualized or obtained a soul among the stars of heaven, the individual rose again on the horizon as the constellation Orion, the star of Horus, the Sahu, or glorified body, resurrected eternally in the fields of Sekhet, Aharu, space, or eternity. Orion represented the risen Horus, the glorified deceased, at least 6,000 years ago when the star rose up from the dark death in the west in the underworld of Amente. The stellar or astral body is called the desire body because it is a vehicle of sentience in the human organism. The body was ascribed to the most ancient star god, Set, who was the god of fire. To Horus, his twin, was ascribed to the spiritual body represented by the sun, the link between star or fire gods. And the sun is the lunar current typified by Thoth, the lord of Magick and the scribe of the gods. Thoth is sacred to the youthful god Khonsu, of whom Crowley as a magus claimed to be an avatar. We've read about Khonsu in the Thelema episodes. I told you this links into a lot of shit. Thus identifying himself as the link between the beast, Set, Lord of the Stars, and the angel, Horns, Lord of the Sun, sex being the mainspring of the astral body. It was through this use that Crowley accomplished most of his magic on the subtle planes. I need to take a break here and remind everybody that Crowley said the point of magic is the reunification of opposites. No cause may be balked of its effect, and its effect is hindered from manifesting on one plane. It does so upon another. it does so upon another. It is its secondary manifestation. The danger lurks in the uninitiated practitioner, because in this plane it generates a debased image of the will. To circumvent this, the will must be steady as a flame in the wildness place. The slightest tremor in the image wavers. This is why intensive practice of mental concentration is essential. The mind and the will must unite and the function one-pointedly. When the image is distorted, it breeds an alien parasitic growth that lives on the vital energy of the person who called it into being. With each fresh sexual act, the creature gathers power. It becomes a vampire, opposing the individual and driving him to actions of cruelty or lust of which he would normally be incapable of. Our friend Eliphas Levi from the Baphomet episode describes the situation, quote, "When one creates phantoms for oneself, one puts vampires into the world, and one must nourish these children of voluntary nightmare with one's blood, one's life, one's intelligence, and one's reason, without ever satisfying them. If correctly used, however, there is no limit to what might be achieved by the magical direction of sexual current." Well, and that's it, guys. Yeah. I've been John Towers, and this has been the Abercast. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Appreciate it. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks for all the support. Please remember to swing by and give us a 5-star rating and a good review. Hit up the mailing list for monthly bonus content and access to graphic components of the show when available. Every mainstream of the show this month has an extension on Patreon for the $5 tier. Week 1 is the House of Air Wands. It's the tarot card extension. Week 2 is the Battle of Tours. Week 3 extension is Metaphysics of Sex Magic, the Kundalini Homunculus, and the Curse of Pasiphae. And week 4 is the Patriot Conspiracy. And just like always, the $3 tier, all of this month's mainstream shows are available commercial free. Right now, that's for the whole month. And a portion of all of our Patreon support, all of our donations and ad revenue goes to helping us send books for deployed servicemen and women, American servicemen and women overseas. This month, we sent out, someone was trying to get a whole complete collection of the Game of Thrones book, the Songs of Ice and Fire, so we were able to send them Dances with Dragons. I want to send a shout out to Marie and Heather for their donations, and also for my old man who donated for Tomes for Troopers. I like that. Thank you guys very much. And last but not least, please remember to check into Abercast.com. The feature topic links are all up and running, I think. You can find links to social media there, and you can also check out some comic books or graphic novels if you're interested. Thanks a lot, guys. See you next week.
In the extended episode, Metaphysics of Sex Magic, the Kundalini, Homunculus, and the Curse of Pasiphae. In part 2, we continue our discussion about the misuse of sexual energy, turning our eye from the spiritual to a grosser material phenomenon. We also talk about an important unspoken role the female has in sacred bedroom alchemy. A portion of all Patreon support and donations goes to Tomes for Troopers to send books and other media to deployed American service members. To go deep, you must reject... To
To go deep, you must reject each phenomenon, each illumination, each ecstasy, going ever downward until you reach the last avatars of the symbols that are the racial archetypes. In this sacrifice to the abysmal gods and the apotheosis that transmutates them to the beauty and the power that is your eternity and the redemption of mankind. Neurosis and the initiation are the same thing, except that neurosis stops short of apotheosis and the tremendous force that mold all life are insisted, circuited, I don't know, and turned poisonous. Psychoanalysts transform tile